Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the panel for being here on such an important issue that's impacting America. We know how unpaid care responsibilities contribute to women leaving the workforce, often having severe impacts on Hispanic mothers. In my district, it's a reality that we see all too often in South Texas. According to the Pew Research Center, over 25% of the nation's newborns are Hispanic. So it stands to reason that without investments, the level of unpaid care responsibilities will likely rise. Ms. Boatek, what positive impacts to mothers and caregivers of young children, not only in the workplace, but in education and professional development, can we expect to see specifically realized by these investments that we're making today?
Thank you for that question. In short, the investments that the Build Back Better Act considers are both short-term and well into the future. You mentioned Latina mothers. Black and Latina women have been pushed out of the workforce at twice the rate of white women. And it stands to reason that these investments in care infrastructure, particularly in childcare and early learning, which is where my focus is, would have lifetime impacts. So for example, the National Women's Law Center, along with the Center for the Study of Poverty at Columbia University, did a study of what would be the lifetime effects of investing in childcare for all who need it. And we found a $94,000 increase in lifetime income, and similarly about $30,000 between Social Security, increased contributions and private savings from women being able to re-enter the workforce. So 17% increase in women's labor force participation and over 30% for women without a college degree, among which women of color are overrepresented. And so we're talking about not just today with the children who are invested in, with the brain development, with their education, with their ability to have higher earnings, higher graduation rates, all of those things that my colleague, Mr. Haspel, discussed, but also their mothers and their grandmothers being more economically secure, which in its own right, that reduced stress, that increased income has enormous impacts on children and family well-being.
Wow, quite impactful. Thank you. Many of my colleagues and I have heard a lot about staffing shortages in several sectors of the economy, especially within child care space. Mr. Haspel, within the Build Back Better Act, what specific policies, and I'm asking specific, are being put into place that will help address these staffing shortages, and how will these policies impact the staffing shortages and help keep costs down moving forward?
Yeah, thank you, Congressman. So the Build Back Better Act requires every state to put in place a wage scale that is the floor of a living wage. So no child care practitioner will be getting less than the living wage, and then each state will, within its own context, determine a ladder. So as people get more experience and credentials, they walk themselves up towards eventually, hopefully reaching pay parity with the kindergarten teacher, essentially. Also requires the states to do what's called a cost of quality study. So it's called this talk about the costs. We're missing the fact that childcare should be expensive, and actually what's being paid now is artificially depressed. Just like in California, you want earthquake-proof buildings. They're going to cost a little more. You want high-quality childcare, you need well-compensated practitioners. And so the Build Back Better Act also has every state conduct their own contextual cost of quality study, which says to provide high-quality care with well-compensated practitioners, with good quality facilities, making sure the parents have good access, this is how much it costs per child, and that becomes the rate that the parents are bringing to the centers or to the family, to the in-home providers, to the faith-based programs. I did want to mention the Build Back Better Act actually strengthens faith-based childcare. Faith-based childcare is also struggling from staffing shortages. They're also closing en masse, and this will strengthen the workforce for them as well. So those are some of the specific provisions that will assist with the staffing shortages.
Very well, and I can agree with that. Thank you, and I yield back.